Hello, my name is Brant Hunt. My channel is simply called Discerning What is True. Today is the Sunday, I think it's the 8th day, 2026, about to say 2025. And I'm going to be reading from a book called The Squaring of the Circle, Chapter 7, Sacred Geometry. But I did want to tell you something about this because me and Phil Langdon, the last conversation we had, neither one of us knew he was still living. And so I looked it up the other day, and I thought he was an Englishman, but apparently he's not. Robert Lawlor was born August 11, 1938, and died November 29, 2022. He was a symbolicist. He was also a mythographer. He was born in Connecticut, New York, in August 1938. He, after training as a painter and a sculptor, became a yoga student at a particular school and lived for many years in an area called Puducherry, where he was a founding member of the Auroville, Aurovill. In India, he discovered the works of the French Egyptologist and esotericist R.A. Lawlor of Blitz. That's Lubicz, which I've done books of his about the temples at Lawlor and others. Him and his wife spent many years there, I think 15 years, in Egypt alone, doing all the research on this, which led him to explore the principles and practices of ancient sacred science. Between 1965 and 68, Robert met his wife, Deborah. In 1972, they left to go to Auroville for a year, so Robert could study sacred geometry and read Sir Aurobindo. They came back to Auroville in 1973 until 1975. In 1979, Lawlor, then living in Tasmania, participated in the Linden's Farm Fellows Conference held at Zen Center in Green Gulch Farm with Keith Critchlow from London. In 1980, Lawlor met together with the William Irvin Thompson and Rachel Fletcher to teach in the Linden's Farm Institute on summer program in sacred archaeology, which provided the context for the design and building of the Linton's Farm Chapel. It's not far and found. Critchlow, 12 criteria for sacred architecture derives from a lecture given at this time. In 1981, a gathering of about 50 members of this particular group met in Crestone, Colorado, under the name Homage to the Pythagoras, which included Lawlor, Thompson, Fletcher, Critchlow, and Christopher Banfor, author of Sajoria. Others here also, Richard Bly, Jocelyn Godwin, John Mitchell, and Ernest McLean. Robert Lawlor died on Kings Island, Tasmania on November 29, 2022 at the age of 84. He's buried alongside his third wife, author Joanna Landberg. I didn't know this, so I'm going to tell you a little bit more. The Temple in Men, this is some of the works by R.A. Lawlor of Blitz, translated by Robert and Deborah Lawlor, Inner Traditions in 1977. The Symbol and the Symbolic, Ancient Egypt, Science, and the Evolution of Consciousness. Again, this was by R.A. Lawlor of Blitz. Now, Lawlor himself of Blitz was a Frenchman. So I assume what happened, all this was done in French. And apparently he, I'm guessing this, I don't know, he chose to write an English edition, I guess, is what I'm gathering. I'm guessing that. Again, I don't know exactly, I'm just guessing. Sacred Geometry, Philosophy, and Practices, which is what the book we're reading is, first edition was in 1979. It was also done again eventually to 1989. He wrote some other ones to Earth honoring the new male sexuality. Voices of the First Day, Awakening in the Aborigine Dreamtime. This is from Rochester, Vermont, Inner Traditions. Homage to Pythagoras, Rediscovering Sacred Science, along with Christopher Bamford, Bamford in 1994. And Geometry of the End of Time, which was the last work he wrote on, which was written in 2015. I just want to share some things about it because most people do not know who he is, and I didn't know who he was neither. But I wanted to go into that. So the chapter I'm going to try to read tonight is The Squaring of the Circle, chapter 7, again from the book called Sacred Geometry. It's simply called The Squaring of the Circle. There are a number of diagrams in literature. Let's see if we can get this thing away. I'm trying to get the color the way I want it to make it easier for me to read it. So just bear with me. There are a number of diagrams in the literature of sacred geometry, all related to the single idea known as squaring of the circle. And this is what Phil Langdon talks about a lot. In order to find the middle of the circle, you need a square. You need to square everything and have it, then it will have 4 points around it. So it'd be squaring of the circle. And then with that, you can find the center. You can draw an X here and an X here from the right and left, and eventually you have it right where it's supposed to be at, which is basically the center of the circle. This is a practice which seeks with only the usual compass and straight edge to construct a square which is virtually equal to perimeter to the circumference of a given circle, or which is virtually equal in area to the area of a given circle, because the circle is an incommensurable figure. One thing based on pi, it's impossible to draw a square more than approximately equal to it. So a circle, as Phil has revealed to me, Phil speaks of simply the circle is eternal. In other words, it's perfect. It represents a spiritual dimension. Okay, and so it represents what I would call, in a way, it's eternal light. That's how I remember what Phil shared with me. So squaring of the circle, that is nevertheless the squaring of the circle, is of great importance to the geometer and cosmologist, because for him the circle represents pure, unmanifested spirit space, while the square represents the manifest and comprehensible world. When a near equality is drawn between the circle and the square, the infinite is also, that's the word I want to use, it's infinite, it's everlasting, and able to express its dimensions of quality through the finite. Now we go into what they call the workbook. In the following pages, I will invite you to follow a squaring of the circle, which I feel contains many symbolic keys for the contemplation of universal creation. We begin by drawing a circle, acknowledging it as the geometric metaphor for a homogeneous, non-differential space. As in our other diagrams, this unity-space must divide into duality in order to create, you see. So we begin by dividing the unity-circle into two halves, a division which occurs within the initial unity. So it says here, drawing 7.1, draw a circle with a center of 0 and radius of 0 over a equals 1. Draw the diameters AA and the BB at right angles with centers on the diameter of BB. Then draw two circles, each having a radius of half that of this original circle. From point A, swing an arc in M, which is a tangent to the circumference of the two inner circles. Repeat from point A. Construct square ACB O from the radius of OA of the original circle. As above, by the arc of the semi-diagonal of the square. Radius AE of the arc NEM is pi, and the arc NEM and NDM divide the ratio of AO and AO into the golden division of what we call 1 over pi and 1 over pi squared. And so this is it's amazing to look at. Unfortunately, I can't share it with you. I don't have the book with me, but it's amazing how they've done this. You have two circles within a circle here, you see, and then you have what I call a extremely, what I would call like a boat-looking like thing that goes over this. This is a 7.1 deal. So equal to, so we go back here. Let me make sure I do this. So the two circumferences of the inner circles, that's the inner circles of the main circle, okay, are together right by each other, equal to that of the larger circle. But the area contained within the two is only half that of the original circle. One has become two. Both Hindu mythology and medieval European alchemy give us the same metaphor to contemplate this mystery of a homogeneous unity which becomes a polarized duality, you see. When homogeneized or thoroughly stirred milk is left to stand in a moderate temperature, it will enter into a acidic formation which coagulates the milk into the contracted fatty globulets of curd, C-U-R-D, which float in the watery whey, W-H-E-Y. We have then a separation of mutual repellent forms which arise from a common source. Mythology, this natural process is figured in what we call in Cain and Abel, or to do with the Egyptian story of Seth and Horus, or to another one simply Indra and the Asuras, etc. The universe, antagonist, and oppositional interaction which forms life. This is the yin and yang. Yes. I'm trying to think the other one is, I can't think of it right now. When we form geometrically the container of the two circles by drawing an arc from each end of the vertical diameter tangent to the two circles, terminating both the upper and lower arcs at the horizontal diameter. We see that these two arcs have cut the vertical radius of O and A that is regarded as one or unity into the golden section of 1 over pi and also 1 over pi squared. The golden mean is the primary division of unity. Is here an analysis to the invisible provocateur, the universal contractor or coagulating power. It is also evident that the radius of this are equals to 1 plus 1 over pi, which is pi. The vesicles enclosing the primary duality that is similar to the vesicles Pisces of workbook 2, but of different proportions, is found everywhere in Egypt as a symbol of Re, R-E. Is that right? Yeah, I guess that's right. Looks like it. It has like a little thing on top of it. Maybe it's RC. The solar, capital R and a small c. The solar life-giving force, the imaginating word, the mouth which speaks the name of the gods, the fractions, the mouth of RC, also resembles the moving shape around a vibrating string. In this drawing of 7.2, The arc of Re, which lies tangent to the two inner circles, cuts the outer unity circle at exactly a point which gives the side of a regular pentagon inscribed in the upper circle, measured from the upper extreme end of the vertical diameter to the left at J and to the right at F. In addition, by placing the compass on the lower extreme of the vertical diameter and drawing an arc tangent to the near curve of the twin circles, we can attain the exact length of a third side of the same inscribed pentagon, touching the outer circle to the left at H and to the right at G. Then, by simply connecting the two upper ends of the pentagon to each end of the base side, we form a perfect inscribed pentagon. Thus, given with the original schism or contraction into two is the plan of the return, the pentagon, the symbol of life with its five-fold symmetry, which appears only in living organisms. This is the figure ascribed to the physical and vital aspects of man, who through the five senses perceives the natural world and thus brings it into existence. The star pentagram, formed by the diagonals within the pentagon, symbolizes transformed or perfected humanity, because all the line segments of the star pentagram are derived from the golden proportions. Therefore, the initial division, which simultaneously gives the proportions for the five-fold symmetry, carries with it its teleological message, which is that of life as the force of levity and return towards the light, as we see in plants, which grow back towards the radiant energy source which they embody. This uplifting is given geometrically at the instant creation begins, when one becomes two. Now that this principle is invoked in our geometric metaphor of creation, we can proceed with the symbolic squaring. So you can see this, you can't, but I can see it showing the part where what they call like a boat part, but you have the two circles within the one circle, which is division, so to speak. Now you can go to the very top, this way, and east-west and north-south being evenly divided. And then what you have will develop somewhat what we call a pentagon, okay, and these others. The medieval squaring of the circle through the pentagon is meant to symbolize the harmonization of intuition, indicated by the pentagon, with reason, indicated by the square, or the idea that the infinite, that is the circle, communicates with the human intelligence through the law of harmony. Drawing 7.3. It shows a circle here, shows the pentagon, star, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pointed star with a square first, circle first, and a square, and then you have the triangles in here also. Enclose the initial drawing 7.3. Enclose the initial circle is in a square. Then draw a circle by using the center of the initial circle as center, and the distance to the tip of the vesicles as radius. This circle will be equal in circumference to the perimeter of the square, which is tangent to the initial circle. We know that the square circumscribing the original circle, whose radius is 1, has a size of 2. Thus, the perimeter of the square is 8, and therefore approximately equal to the circumference of the large circle of being 7.993. This leads to the value of pi, which is believed to have been used by the ancient Egyptians for the construction of the Great Pyramid. This basically is like 2 pi squared over pi equals 8, and n squared pi equals 4. Whereas true is pi is 3.1415926 is a nearly exact pi using the golden mean is pi 2 squared times 6 over 5 equals 3.1416404. The ratio is 5 to 6 or 1 to 1 to 2. Incidentally, is the function which relates pi to the radius. And 1.2 equals the relationship of 12 to 10. 12 is the number of the circles of cosmic time. Say that again. 12 is the number of the circles of cosmic time. It is the number of completions, and as the ratio of 6 to 5, it relates the hexagon to the pentagon. To return to our figure, by using a side of 1/4 of the square, which is identical to the radius of the first circle as unity, we can determine these values. So I'm going to look back to here. This drawing here is from 7.4. This is based on the following: the radius of the circle circumscribing the mouth of RE by Pythagoras. This would be pi squared equals 1 plus radius of 2. Radius equals square pi minus 1. And then radius equals square pi. And circumference equals 2 pi square of pi, which square pi equals 1.272, and n equals 3.142. 2 n's, or this is what it's showing here, over pi equals 7.993 for the circumference, or approximately 8. It's becoming more elaborate. I wish I could have shared this on my screen. It's really sad. 7.5. This is a drawing. So, different drawing here. The next objective is to construct a square equal in area to the original circle, to inscribe 3 additional pentagons within the circle. Bisect one side of the pentagon, mark the corresponding point on the circle, then bisect the resulting segments. This gives starting points for the 3 new pentagons, so that the total of apexes is 20. This can symbolize for us the quintessential 5-fold symmetry, the flowering of the light principle in its return towards light, expressing itself in terms of the 4-fold symmetry of the elementary nature: earth, air, fire, and water. In drawing 7.6, 7.7, and 7.7a, if we begin at point A, where the first pentagons, I should say, touches the vertical axis, and draw a straight line through the second and fifth points to the pentagon, I keep saying that, sorry, pentagon vertices. Then extend these lines to the vertical and horizontal axis. This will be the first side of a square. Continue drawing this to form lines QR, RS, and SP by using the geometric method of calculations on the pentagon. Sorry, it is pentagon. I keep saying pentagram. Pentagon, and it diagram from Workbook 5, we can determine the values given as drawing 7.7 and 7.7a, and thus verify that this new square will be approximately equal in area to the surface of the initial circle. The the diameter of the square, OP, equals 1.26006, and the side of the square is PQRS equals 1.26006 times pi squared equals 1.7819938. This is squaring, taking from a design of the Middle Ages, and is not mathematically very exact, but symbolically it has great simplicity and beauty. The numbers given will show the side to the 1.7819938, while a more perfect square would be 1.772437, which making a difference of 0.00955548, or a pi equal to 3.17. The circumvallation of the Kaaba, K-A-B-A, or Q at Mecca, which is in Saudi Arabia, is a symbolic ritual related to the concept of squaring the circle. This is a thing with the Muslims, where this is their holy site. And people go there once in a lifetime, so to speak. This is the big deal for them. And they go around the circle where the square is. They did a march around it, so to speak. In drawing 7.8 and combining the drawings, we notice that the Vesca, or mouth array, which makes the initial abstract, that is a linear square, does not touch, but rather emits the second manifest squaring, the one of surface. Here we have in one diagram the classical geometric relationship made between the circle and square, between the spiritual, I should say, and external worlds. In the natural worlds. In the next section, we will discuss this same relationship in volume between the sphere and the cube. So that is the conclusion of chapter 7 from Sacred Geometry. I think there's about a couple more chapters in this book, as far as I know. I'm just scrolling down. I think there's 2 chapters left. I might be wrong. It goes in more and more detail, far more, in this particular chapter, far more. There's another chapter, chapter 9. Becomes more elaborate too. So now there are 3 more chapters, chapter 10. So okay, okay, all right. So we'll stop here. Again, this is a video about sacred geometry, and this is relating to what Robert Lawlor had done in the past. He no longer lives now. So I appreciate you being here again. This is Square in the Circle, Chapter 7, Sacred Geometry book by Robert Lawlor. Thank you for being here. Wish you a good night. Take care.